Welcome to our channel HASHMICLINICS.
Hey there and welcome back. Today we're going to dive deep into a real powerhouse remedy, one that's all about congestion, hemorrhoids, and a very, very particular kind of backache. We're talking about Aesculus Hippocastanum, the common horse chestnut. All right, let's just jump right in with one of the most unforgettable symptoms you'll ever come across. I mean, just think about that for a second. It's so specific, so visceral, and that feeling right there, that's our first huge clue that points directly to the heart of Aesculus. It's a keynote we're going to keep coming back to. So here's our game plan for today. We're going to piece together the entire picture of this remedy. We'll start with its core problem, then layer on the mental and physical symptoms, and finally, we'll see exactly how it stands out from other similar remedies. Okay, so to really get a handle on Aesculus, you have to start with its foundation, We need to understand the fundamental physiological state it's all about. This is the root cause of pretty much everything else we're going to talk about. And that core problem, the one thread that ties everything together, is something called venous stasis. Basically, it just means the blood flow in the veins has gotten sluggish. Things have slowed way down. And when that happens, blood starts to pool up, creating all this pressure and congestion, especially around the liver and, you guessed it, the veins in the lower bowel. And what does that feel like for the person? Well, it translates into one huge sensation. If you remember one single word for Aesculus, make it this one: fullness. It's this heavy, bursting, congested feeling, like different parts of the body are just packed with way too much blood. So, with all that physical congestion and sluggishness going on, what do you think happens to the mind? When the body feels stuck and heavy, the mind almost always follows suit. Let's take a look. It's pretty amazing how the mental state just perfectly mirrors what's happening physically. The person feels gloomy, despondent, like there's this dark cloud just hanging around. And all that internal sluggishness, it brews this deep-seated irritability. They can just snap, lose their temper over nothing. And here's the key part: it takes them a long time to get back to normal. They're just miserably cross. So that's the mood: irritable, gloomy, stuck. This naturally leads to the next question. How does all this internal pressure and crabbiness actually show up physically? Where do we really see the action? Okay, now we get into the physicals, and you're going to see that same theme we've been talking about, that fullness, but also this feeling of dryness and burning. It's going to pop up again and again all over the body. So right away, you see this really clear pattern emerge, right? The mucous membranes from the nose and throat all the way down to the rectum, they feel swollen, raw, dry, and they burn. Even a simple cold comes with this thin, watery, burning discharge, and this classic sensitivity to just breathing in cold air. It's like all the tissues are congested and irritated. But look, if there's one place that's like the absolute epicenter of all this suffering for an Aesculus person, it's the rectum. This is ground zero. All those key sensations we just mentioned, they are all right here, but with an intensity you just don't see anywhere else. The dryness, the heat, the burning, the itching, and of course that constant feeling of fullness. And that intense congestion leads to some very, very specific hemorrhoids. They're usually what we call blind, which means they cause a ton of pain, but they very rarely bleed. They're large, they're purplish, and they are so painful. And there it is again, that signature sensation. It feels like the whole area is just full of little sharp sticks. The pain can be so bad, it feels like knives shooting upwards, and it can go on for hours after a bowel move. Okay, and all of this, all that intense pressure and pain in the pelvis, brings us to what is maybe the most important connection in this whole remedy. It's the link between the pelvis and the back. This relationship is what truly, truly defines Aesculus. I mean, this quote from the source material just says it all, doesn't it? The back gives out. This isn't just about feeling a little stiff. This is a profound, deep weakness, a feeling like the whole structure of your lower back is just gone. So let's really break this down. What does this backache look like? The pain is this severe, dull ache, and it's centered right in that lumbosacral area, right where your spine meets your pelvis. The feeling is one of total weakness, like the back is just going to break in two. And the triggers, this is so important. Any kind of motion like walking or stooping makes it incredibly worse. So much worse that they literally have to stop what they're doing and sit or lie down. Okay, so we've built this whole picture of Aesculus, right? Now for the really practical part. How do you tell it apart from other remedies that can look kind of similar when it comes to hemorrhoids and back pain? This is where we get really precise. All right, let's look at this chart. The absolute game changer for Aesculus is that severe sacral backache, the one that just gives out. You combine that with the small sticks feeling and very little bleeding, and you've got Aesculus. Now, compare that to something like aloe. Aloe also has hemorrhoids like a bunch of grapes, but they bleed a lot. And the key feeling isn't sticks, it's insecurity. Nux vomica, that's all about that constant, frustrating urge to go to the bathroom. And sulfur, think burning, itching, and that classic morning rush to the toilet. That backache, though, that's the great differentiator for Aesculus. Honestly, if you're ever trying to decide between Aesculus and aloe, this is your go-to comparison. Just remember this simple rule. Aesculus is a whole lot of pain with very little, if any, bleeding. Aloe is the total opposite, a whole lot of bleeding with pain that's more sore and hot instead of feeling like splinters. And just to help this all stick in your mind, here's a really cool piece of history. The link between the horse chestnut and this condition is ancient. It was actually a common folk remedy for people to carry a horse chestnut, a conker, in their pocket as a sort of good luck charm to prevent hemorrhoids. It just shows you how long this plant has been tied to this specific problem. So there you have it. That's the whole picture. You've got this deep venous congestion causing a feeling of fullness. You've got an irritable, gloomy mind, a rectum that feels like it's full of sharp sticks, and a lower back that feels like it's going to break with any movement. The crucial takeaway is that powerful link between the pelvis and the back. So the question I want to leave you with is this. The next time you see a case where pelvic congestion meets a breaking back, will you remember Aesculus?
Professor Dr. Rafat Hashmi is a distinguished homeopathic physician, educator, and researcher with over 4 decades of clinical and teaching experience. He is widely respected for his deep command of materia medica, repertory, and constitutional prescribing, combined with a practical, patient-centered approach. Dr. Hashmi has dedicated his career to training generations of homeopathic doctors, blending classical principles with modern clinical insight. He is also known for his innovative work in digital homeopathy, developing educational content, clinical tools, and AI-assisted systems to enhance remedy selection and case analysis. With a strong commitment to ethical practice and lifelong learning, Professor Dr. Rafat Hashmi continues to guide, inspire, and elevate the standards of homeopathic education and patient care.